Hey, Enchilada Nation, super excited to have you back for part 2 of the episode with Dan Cerrillo, former Navy SEAL, and Derek Price, former NFL player. But more importantly, these guys are serial entrepreneurs and family man. So I'm really excited about jumping into the conversation today. If you missed the pre-conversation, last week's episode, I highly recommend you go listen to that because it cues up the conversation today in a big way. I'm really excited to share with you what we talked about. Here we go.
Welcome to the Whole Enchilada, a community of high achievers that fight the status quo, rebel against mediocrity, and make life happen. Let's go.
Let's go down this path around the pursuit of happiness for a minute. And I think it ties back to some of the things we've already talked about, of that idea of stay the course, right? How many people in our worlds do you think really have got clarity on what happiness is to them? Have they defined happiness as they want to achieve happiness, or are they letting the world define what they think happiness should be? Going back, Dan, to your comment around social media, is how many times do we scroll through social media? We're like, oh, look at that cool car. That must be happiness. They're smiling. Oh, look at this trip to Europe or whatever it is. Those guys are smiling. That must be happiness, right? I honestly think, and I coach a lot of people just like you do. I do a lot of leadership. I'm surprised at how many times I sit down with someone and I ask them, like, what is it that you're trying to accomplish in life? Like, paint the picture for me of what you're trying to accomplish, and they can't articulate it. So how can we, going back using your term, Derek, stay the course? How can we encourage someone to stay the course if they don't even know what course they're on? They haven't even defined what it is they're trying to accomplish. And what I'd like you to pull into this conversation is, you guys mentioned that being a SEAL, being in the NFL was a chapter of your life. It's been years since that was who you were. How did you re-identify a new course, a new identity that you wanted to pursue? And let's shift our conversation into kind of life after the teams.
For me, Marcus, it has become, and I don't have one answer for you, because if you asked me 5 years ago, it'd be a different answer. If you asked me 5 years before that, it'd be a different answer. So for the sake of this not being a 10-hour podcast, I can just speak to where I'm at today. I intentionally pursue things I'm not good at. I go out of my way to discover things I'm not good at. I bring things on to me that may not even have a practical value. For example, like, I have my own personal belief, right? I'm always reading 3 books at any given time. I'm reading one book that is just fun, storyland, fantasy, whatever. It's an escape. I'm reading one book on, attributes, self-help, extreme ownership, books like that, on trying to pick up, maybe I can read the whole book and I'll get a paragraph that makes sense to me. I'll get a sentence that makes sense to me, but it's things I can now put into my vault and make myself better. But then I'll also read something that I have no understanding or practical application to. Right now, it's Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. I'm not a cosmologist. I'm not a physicist. But, a great lesson that another mentor and a great friend of Dan and myself is a guy named Chris Smith. And Chris asked me one time, he said, are you reading the book or are you understanding the book? And I was like, gosh dang, that's a great point, because I'd been reading to in my mind say, I read this super hard book on, quantum mathematics. Okay, great. Did you understand it? Oh, well, Chris, for me to do that, I'd have to read the page 10 times. He goes, so why'd you turn the page? Okay. And I know that lesson for some of your listeners is going to say, that's not really practical. I don't need to read those books. But the lesson is, if you're going to pursue something, understand it and be able to utilize it and embed it into your life and make it a practical positivity than just to check the box, right? 100%. So the accumulation of things, listen, there's always going to be somebody that has more than you. And if you think that my bank account at X and then I'm winning, there's always somebody with more. I want this car. There's always somebody with something better. So since I know I can't win that game, right? I'm not going to be Bezos. I'm not going to be Elon. I'm not going to be, a sheik from the oil fields. Nor do I pursue that. I find happiness in what's around me and by who I surround myself with. And for me, it's my close circle is my family, and then my brothers. Dan Cerrillo is like the family member of mine. It's knowing that I could pick up the phone and have intentional conversations with people that matter probably brings me the single most joy. So if I had to pin down to the bottom line, what makes Derek Price happy in the pursuit of happiness is having intentional relationships with people that are symbiotic. I'm always trying to get from them, but conversely, they're trying to get from me too, but both in a positive manner. And it's attracting those types of relationships in my life that has, to Dan's point, made my work life better. It makes my home life better. My kids get to see what I'm doing. It's making their choices easier for them. And it just seems to work.
I love that. And as you guys know, even though I've known that this has been a big aha for me recently in the recent a podcast episode with David Rutherford talking about relationships and the way he described relationships being like taking him from a normal relationship to an intimate relationship was an aha moment for me. And I had an incredible conversation with him in regards to that was sparked at the Spartan 7 adventure. So I love that idea of defining happiness as the relationships in which you build. And again, I think there's a lot of things in the world that are working against us in trying to define what happiness should look like for us. And almost every one of those are pushing away from more intimate relationships, not towards it. So I love that.
We're pushing towards things, not
things,
not the etherical, the relationships, right? So,
yeah. Dan, thoughts on that?
I love that question of, life after the teams. For me, like the teams, I talk about this, some people, it's a chapter of a book. The teams are a book, and that book sits underneath my bed. And I've written 3 books since then of life, right? And so, the one thing that has always gotten me is, for the first time in a long time, I have a fire again. Now, fire for me has always been physical, right? So there was a time when I wanted to win the CrossFit Games. I'm like, okay, I'm going to win the 45-year-old title. These 2 guys, Freddie Camacho, Timmy IG, we're in the gym together. Tim IG and I are in the gym together. I'm at that level. I think I can win this thing. And, then you get hurt and you blow your back out, you have surgery, that thing comes to an end and you become almost self-deflated, right? And then I discovered that was a moment of time of happiness that I was seeking. That really wasn't that I didn't really love. Derek actually got me into something that I loved. I decided to do an Ironman. And during the course of that Ironman, it served 2 purposes. The helicopter had been shot down, lost a lot of friends in the helicopter. And so I was in this gray, dark area. And what I found is that training for an Ironman is like being a SEAL again. It's hours and hours of work. There is no pats on the back. It's just you, your thoughts, and the darkness. And what I found is that I had lost my ability to think like a SEAL because I was no longer a SEAL. And I struggled with that for years. Like all SEALs, NFL guys, you're going to struggle with not being what you used to be. The Ironman brought me back to what my physical and mental and spiritual capabilities were. I cried more than I ever cried in my life. I had the most wonderful time of my life training for it, this immense happiness. And I found out what my body likes to do. My body likes hours of work, not minutes of work. And I fall in love with bike riding, right? And I fall in love with swimming. I just bought a swim spa, as a matter of fact. My wife loves swimming, and it's one of those things where you go, I'm going to self-indulge myself with a swim spa because I don't want to go to the YMCA with 400 people in the water, right? It sucks. So those little things. But what I found now is that my challenge that used to be physical is now I have a chip on my shoulder again. And I haven't had it in a while. My chip on my shoulder is business. And not because of what it is, but I started thinking a lot back to when I lived in Bellevue, Washington. And in Bellevue, Washington, I was a gym owner, but I also wanted to be what some of the people surrounding me would be. I wanted to be a business guy. I wanted to be an executive. Nobody would give me a chance. Like that just was like, yeah, but you're like a SEAL and you're like a gym owner. Like it was almost like I was the poorest guy in Bellevue and I accepted my place, and very, very wealthy community. Well, now I am an executive at a big company, and the chip on my shoulder isn't to say, look at me. The chip on my shoulder is like, now I have an opportunity. Now I have a seat at the table. And that seat at the table, the chip on my shoulder is, how can I do my part to make this table better? I know my place at the table. My place at the table is not to come up with billing codes and insurance variables and new contracts. There's guys who do that. My place at the table is when they go, hey, we got this new contract. We want it to implement. My place at the table is to go, I will make that implementation to make sure it gets done. And accepting that, and it's funny is I like Derek, I don't like compliments. It's hard for me to accept compliments. To hear my CEO give me compliments and then call me on the phone and go, I need you to take over this. I need you to take over all the real estate and all this stuff. And I often sit back and I'm like, holy shit. Like, dude, like I'm like, wow. And then I start doing it. I'm like, I actually know this stuff. Right. Like, and I come into this, I told you know, what's funny, when I got hired at this company, I called Derek. I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about healthcare. Zero. I know how to plug holes in my finger. You know, like that's healthcare to me. And so I had to literally learn DRG codes and contract. I had to learn everything by writing it down. And so staying the course is the biggest thing, been one for me, right? And then, you know, personal happiness. So we talked about what life is after the teams. Forever after the teams, I worked for billionaires. I saw what billionaires had and I wanted that. I wanted the private jet, the yacht, etc. Then you have life-defining moments. And, you know, for me, life-defining moments are hardship, massive hardship. And that's the way, you know, our Heavenly Father speaks to me, right? I'm not a Bible thumper per se. I have a deep relationship with our Heavenly Father. I have my version of what I believe that is. And his way of communicating to me is go, you're not listening. So here you go. How do you like those apples? And I listen. I'm like, oh, wow. So now I know what my personal happiness is. You know, people are like, man, what are you working to? Like, what is your retirement goal? My retirement goal, believe it or not, is this simple: to lay in bed and watch TV with my wife. Nice. All day long. Like all day long. Yeah. We go in the backyard and do yard work. Like literally, we spend so much time doing that, you know, or take her on a date. But it isn't, you know, and I have a car, right? I got a watch. You know, my wife takes care of me. She buys me nice gifts. But that's not happiness. That's just shit. Literally, happiness is like, hey, you want to go fucking trim the roses? We're so boring. We're so boring. And that makes me so happy. Like I literally, like, I love it. My son and I were out there, you were digging a hole in the basement. I'm building a workshop for him. And I'm looking over, I'm gonna get emotional. I look at my baby boy, I'm like, man, fucking rock star. Right? He's such a hard worker. He's such an amazing, loving human being. Like my son is everything I could never be. Everybody loves him. He smiles, he's happy. He's just so full of life, tremendous athlete, smart as hell. And it just makes me just like bubble inside, right? So that's that part. And then, you know, obviously life after the teams for me has been good and bad. I'm on a really good plane right now. I'm not climbing a mountain. I'm at a plateau and I love it. Maybe there's some mountains in the future, but I'm not seeking them. I've climbed mountains. I've descended into dark valleys. I like where I'm at. I'm freaking happier than snot. I have a great dog. Like, you know, it's cool. Like life is easy, right? The biggest thing for me is the definition of time. And this is the message that I hope your listeners listen to. I congratulate myself almost on a daily basis because I have defined time. And what I mean by that is I have learned how to be a family man. Now, I've been married for 22 years, but I've only been a husband for probably 3. That's the truth. That's God's honest truth. I've always been a father, but I don't think I've ever been really a good husband. I knew that I took my wife for granted until she got sick and got cancer. I really think I took her for granted. That changed me. And my definition of time is very simple. In the morning, that's her time, right? I wake up out of bed. I wake up before she does, and I simply hold her. She is my beloved. I hold her, I caress her hair, and then I get up, I go do my workout. I usually working out probably about a half hour before her. She comes in, she starts her workout. We work out together. We watch Friends or we watch something funny on TV while she's rowing, I'm riding, we lift together, whatever. We take the dog for a walk. We go through that. We go drink our tea on the deck. I do not look at my phone that entire time. That is not a part of work. Like, that's it. As soon as I'm ready to work, it's a flight switch. And I know it drives her crazy because once I go into work mode, as Derek will tell you, I'm in work mode. Like it's hard for me to be not in work mode. I go into work mode and it's full steam ahead. Everybody knows, do not call me. You text me and I will break away to call you back. Don't call me because man, you're just disturbing me right now.
You're asking for it.
So, but the biggest thing is when I leave work, I come in my driveway and I finish work in my driveway. Whatever phone calls I have, emails I need to answer, whatever. The moment I walk in this door, I'm a family man again. And that definition of time, to me, has made me successful. Of understanding that, one, this person who should have left you 100 times stayed. You owe it to her. I owe her something, right? And when I walk through the door, it isn't the shit that I owe her. It's me. That's what she stayed for. She chose me. I walk through the door. I am a husband again. I'm a father again. You want to make Dan mad? Call me in an evening just to rap. Hey, man, just call and see what you're doing. Bro, I'm with my family. Like, I am with my family. There are probably 5 people in the world that I will answer the phone for when I come home. You know, outside of that, and, you know, Derek, unfortunately, has been the referee in this because a person crossed the line. They call me almost every day. And I'm like, bro, we're not homies. You know, like, I'm with my, well, I just had an idea. No, I'm with my family, you know? So that to me has been the biggest thing that I hope that part of that message gets across is the definition of time. I have literally learned the value of it. I've learned how to be a mature man. And that has brought me a complete lifestyle change, you know?
A lot of really important lessons they're learning. And I just set myself a new life goal is, will Dan pick up the phone for me when he's with his family? That's how I'm going to
just text first.
That's how I'm going to find out if I've made it in life right there. I want to touch real quick and then we're going to wrap up. So I want to hear a couple closing thoughts from you guys on, based on our conversation, a couple of your takeaways or thoughts that you want to leave with our listenership. I want to encourage the people that are listening to this podcast to ask yourself this question. What seat or what table are you seated at right now? And if the truth of the matter is if you're overly comfortable in that seat, you're at the wrong table. And you can have a couple different tables, again, breaking the whole idea of the whole enchilada down from that family man to that businessman, to the leader, to your religious preference, whatever that looks like. Is I would ask yourself the question, are you at the right table? And if you're comfortable there, you're probably not at the right table. And then if you are a little uncomfortable, the thing I would encourage you to think, and you guys gave some great illustrations of this, both of you in your conversations, is you approach it first of not what am I going to get from the other people seated around this table, is what can I contribute? How do I contribute to the other people around this table? And by doing so, I think you'll grow into that seat. You'll grow into the being comfortable being seated at that table. And what you'll get back from the other people around that table, if you're at the right table, will grow you immensely. That's what I picked up from those examples that you were sharing with us, Dan. Any last closing thoughts from you guys?
You know, Marcus, I think everything that I could say, I think you just articulated it. I would just, leave the listeners here with, take an actual true stock of your self-worth in respect to your ego. And are you moving forward with an egocentric perspective or a growth perspective? Because you can't do them simultaneously. And don't be afraid to fail forward fast. Go out there and take risks, man, take chances. You're not failing, so to speak. You're just learning how to be more efficient at pursuing that endeavor. And I believe it is the perseverance attribute that stacks up behind somebody that is going to be a better barometer of success. So Dan and I get offers and requests all the time to join Spartan 7, as a coach, et cetera. And it's not the talent pool or the skills that you possess that we look at, because we assume that you have those skills or you wouldn't be making the request. What attributes do you bring to the table? And if you're not bringing something to the table, then there's not a place for you here, right? And that's how we look at it, and it seems to work pretty well. And I would agree with Dan. And I will say, to level the playing field, I am the only non-SEAL on the Spartan 7 cadre. Okay, so by definition, I get the honor of being the lowest level guy. So. Yeah, but yet I'm at the table, right? So I must bring something to it. And again, I don't have the skills they have, man. I didn't go through buds. I didn't go overseas and kick doors, but yet I'm out there, amongst these brothers, and they're allowing me to teach people how to use, weapon systems, right? So bring your attributes to the table. Focus on those. and focus on your weak spots. Enjoy your strengths, but focus on your weak spots and find a plan to develop it.
Love it. Well said. Dan, closing thoughts?
Yeah, same thing. That's the one thing when we'll talk about, Spartan 7 adventure is we get a lot of requests. People are like, hey man, I'd love to come coach. Hey, my buddy'd love to come coach, etc. And for me, I tell this to the kids that I coach right now in football. I'm interviewing you right now. Like your interview is happening right now, right? And so I understand people change. That's fine. But when people come back to me after years and years of not being around, like I'd love to coach, I remember something about them from the past. And I'm like, will that benefit what I'm trying to do? So with Spartan 7 Adventure, we do shooting, we do helicopter, we do all kinds of cool stuff, SEAL adventures. But that's not what we do. I want to make sure that we define that. That's not what we do, right? Everybody is doing that. Everybody's teaching tactics. They got the beat. That I can do that. But I also understand that I can't take Marcus Green for a weekend and teach Marcus Green how to clear a house every single time the proper way. That day, Marcus Green might do a great job by 5 p.m. on a Sunday. Marcus Green's a rock star. Bring Marcus back a week from now. He's like, how do we do this again? I've understood that. I'm giving you we are giving you pieces of skills that can help you in your daily life. What we're doing is we're showing you that men like us have also a warrior/vulnerable side. We are warriors and we are family men. We talk more about family and how our family has aided in our warrior life. That's what Spartan 7 says. So when people try to come in and be part of it, I look at that part. What are you bringing to the table? Not your shooting skills, not your that's cool. I know a lot of dudes that have warriors. What are you bringing that's going to make my clients' lives better? So that's part one. The seat at the table part. This is the part where I'm really trying to speak to my nieces and nephews a lot. Subliminally, because I don't try to get in people's face. I sit at a seat on the table that is. I tell people when I give my speech, I have a dart. I threw it across the Grand Canyon and hit a bullseye. And I threw that dart 1,000 times. I just didn't give up. And what it comes down to is just because you have paper on the wall doesn't mean you belong where you belong. Education isn't school. Education is educating yourself in the job that you do to make yourself better and more contribute more to the job that you can to enhance the team, right? I can sit in my seat and simply go, do this, do that, do this, do that. But if I don't know what I'm actually talking about, do I actually know I'm making a good decision? When it comes to healthcare, I came in with zero. And I've had to learn and work my way into a position to be able to make informed decisions and then rely on information from people who sit around the table who have way bigger pieces of paper on the wall than I'm ever going to have, right? I got a square cap. I don't have an octagonal cap, okay? And I don't want one. That's not part of me. I don't have that time. I have no desire to do that. So, but if I can take that octagonal cap, the pieces of their smartness, which they can't put into play, put the two together, get it done, that's where I belong. And what I want everybody to understand is don't just settle for what's good, what you think is good. Seek out opportunities. That's if I've been good at anything in my life is seeking out opportunities and developing relationships and creating a network of people. And creating a network of people, and the one thing that I think everybody says about me is I just get shit done, right? And I get it done because I have a mindset of I have to fill this glass of water. How am I going to fill it? What am I going to fill it? How much does it cost? How's it going to get done? Has it been done before? What was the outcome of that? I always ask these questions over and over again. And I think that too many people go, I can fill a glass of water. I don't have the money. Okay, I just not going to do it. Like business. I opened my businesses with zero money. There's no loans. It was literally like, hey, TP, you got $1,000. Like you put $1,000 in, I'll put $1,000 in, and Chris will put $1,000 in, and we'll see what happens, Yeah. And take a chance, man. Swing the bat. What's the worst going to happen? You fail, people say no. So don't let no be your ultimate letdown. But if you come into a question, if you're going to ask a question, you better have answers. I get a lot of people question me like, hey man, I want to do this. Okay, how are you going to do it? Oh. Now, how much does it cost? Like, when are you going to do it? Like, bro, you just wasted my time. Know what you want to throw a butterfly in the air. You better know all the questions that go with that butterfly. Because up till then, it's just a butterfly that flies away. I think that's where a lot of people don't understand what entrepreneurialism is. Entrepreneurism means you do everything. You want something welded, you better learn to weld. I have a welder in my garage. I can't afford the welder. I learned to weld. You want to build something, you better go buy a saw. You got to learn. You got to do every single thing, because now you know what it actually costs, right? You know what accounting costs if you know how to do accounting. Derek and I, we deal with things, and Derek and I break down things down to like the price of a pea cup. We know exactly, one guy charges $1.50, one guy charges 70 cents. 70 cents when you buy 10,000 of them in a year, that's a really big deal. And that's the thing with entrepreneurs. If you don't know that, you're just going to be throwing money in the wind. It's going to be gone. Everybody else gets paid but you.
Great lessons. I know I've ate up more of your time than you were planning today. I want to tell you guys, number one, thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom with us today. But more importantly, thank you for the impact you've had on me personally. I've loved just spending time with you guys and the lessons I've learned on a personal level from you. I hope that our listeners, as they listen to this, took some notes. I took over a page of notes here of little lessons of things I want to go back and reflect on to help me grow and become a better person. The last thing I want to make sure our listeners know is these Spartan 7 adventures are life-changing, and they are so much fun. So if any of you have interest in joining and going to a Spartan 7 adventure, I am planning on going to several of them. You can go to the wholeenchilada.biz and fill out the contact us form. I'll make sure that you're aware of them. Derek or Dan, where do they find you guys on social media in regards to the Spartan 7?
Yeah, the website is spartan7inc.com. And then the Instagram is Spartan 7 Adventure, Spartan 7 Adventure, not without an S. So just venture.
Awesome. I'm hoping to bring a bunch of people with me to the next one. And thank you guys again. Enchilada Nation, don't forget, go live life on your terms. Make it a great week. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.